Hey, this is Dave Pryor. Welcome to the Agile 2024 pre-conference interviews. We're talking about all the things that are going to be happening at Agile 2024 so that you feel encouraged to come and attend and bring your whole team and your manager and your family and your pets and everybody to the Gaylord for a week this July. And today I'm with Allison Pollard. Did I get it right?
You did.
Cool. All right, Merman, take that.
Oh no, I don't know if Chris knows. He's always pronounced my name wrong. Oh,
Well,
sorry, Chris.
He does now. So we're going to talk about extreme open space, which is one of the things that you're a part of at the conference. But before we do that, would you mind telling these folks a little bit about what you do and the way that you focus your work?
Yeah.
'Cause I know you have sort of a unique niche there.
Yeah, Jake Calabrese is my co-facilitator for Open Space. He and I are co-owners of Helping Improve, along with Paul Tevis. And for me, being an experienced coach and consultant, I understand juggling delivery, change, and people in organizations. So my expertise is to help with you in like really short, focused bursts of help. Be able to
Okay.
have more productive interactions with your teammates, with your boss, with your peers. And so that's the thing that I've been focused on most recently.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And that sets you up perfectly to explain to these kind people what an extreme, I always want to say like extreme open space.
We're
like
going to
the
help you have more
Monster Energy
productive
drink.
interactions. Yes.
Whether you want it or not. So let's just start out with what is an open space for folks that are not familiar.
Yeah. This because the idea of open space technology goes back to the 70s, like before my time. And really it was inspired by hallway conversations that would take place at conferences. So, when you're normally sitting through sessions and your brain is starting to get full, and then suddenly it's like, oh, time for a coffee refill. Go to the hallway and you start talking to the people that are waiting in line with you, or, you're waiting for the milk, whatever. And you find yourself making these connections that are super useful and is helping you to digest, like start to process some of the things that have been going around in your brain as you've been in these sessions. And so
Okay.
Harris and Owen realized, wow, I love the hallways. How could I maybe expand the hallway experience? Could I have a conference that's all that? And so he started experimenting with what we now call open space technology. And so it really is like what's emerging for people. We're going to give you an opportunity to propose all of that, like what are those topics? What are those questions? What are those activities that you want to try to lead or share with other people? We basically have cleared off the space on Wednesday and said it only gets populated on Wednesday. So you can't come to us on Monday. You cannot come to us on Tuesday and say, I got an idea. I have a thing I want to do. Like, no.
Yeah.
We're going to have to hold it until the right time on Wednesday when we ask for all those things.
Okay, but they can start to prepare their pitch now because you are at least the first one that I went to was at a Scrum gathering, and I worked up the nerve. First Scrum gathering, first open space, and I worked up the nerve to go and pitch my topic to the crowd. But that was scary.
It's maybe. I think for me, like I tend to love things that are novel and new. So if you said, Allison, like it's beginning of June, start thinking about what you would propose at open space. I'm like, I will have thought about it from like 5 different angles between now and then. I will have like fallen in love with it, started to hate it, like been kind of like, meh, I don't know. That by the time the conference gets here, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what I have to say around this because I've thought about it so much and like kind of pre-planned so much in my head, but I've actually had an entire session just with myself. And it's like no longer as useful for me to now connect with other people.
All the voices in your head are showing up and then leaving.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, I've already had my own dialogue over the last month or so. For me, it really is about like you're going to be in Monday and Tuesday. You're going to hear so many different experienced practitioners sharing what they've been doing, what's working, what's not working, helping you develop skills, giving you new tools to use. You're going to be at brain full by Wednesday. If you're doing it right. And by doing it right, I don't even mean like going to every single session. I mean going to 1 or 2 things a day will actually get you to
Right.
brain full pretty quickly. So by Wednesday, being able to say, all right, like what's going on for you now? Where are you wanting to make deeper connections to like the content you've heard and how you can bring it back into your company, or how
Okay.
this needs to show up in what you're trying to apply and practice because you're looking for a new job, you want to build up your skills,
Sure.
like there's these opportunities to ask the questions and say, who has advice for me if I'm trying to do XYZ? Or who's ever done this kind of thing before? And folks will show up. The Agile community is like super helpful. That when people go, oh, you might be struggling with something that I've already done, and I remember how painful it was for me, I would love to like prevent you from going through some of the heartache that I had.
Yeah.
Like, let me, sit down with you and see how my experience can be useful for you.
Or they're currently struggling with it now and they need somebody to
Other
talk
people
to.
that like they
Support
want
group.
the same like solace, like support group that it kind of like spins up on the fly, right? And that's why to me like open space is a little bit different than like what my hallway conversations were usually like, because hallway conversations were either like, oh, like what did you think of the speaker that like we both came out of the same room, and it's like starting to get into like a deeper topic, whereas I feel like open space we really get to like jump straight in. And for someone that hates small talk like me, you're like, ooh, I don't have to do the who am I and where are you from and like how was your travel here? I drove 20 minutes, like blah blah blah. We can get straight into like, for companies that are scaling and oh my gosh, like we have more work and like not enough people to do it. How do you help teams blah 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 to improve their delivery? Because I'm not seeing how we juggle that on top of everything else. And people go, oh yeah, I get that. Like I get it for you.
Cool. All right. So I want to talk about the format a little bit too, because I'm thinking of the open spaces that I have been to and the way that they have begun. And I'm really struggling to imagine you and Jake walking out into the center of that room with like a meditation bowl and cleaning it and like, opening the space for everyone. So if people show up, because I mean, it would be funny as hell if Jake did that or you did that.
Right.
When people show up, like how does it start?
Yeah, so you're hitting on something, because a lot of folks like they'll walk into the room and like this is the room that is often used for like say a keynote, right? And it's normally set up theater style. And then when you walk in like open space day, you're like, there are chairs in a big circle and then concentric circles all the way out. Like, what is this? So you're right. Jake and I will be walking around. You're not really meditation bowl people. I find especially, and because like, Jake and I, like we've had our like geeky philosophical conversations about open space, right? And like how do we like to kick them off or facilitate them? And in smaller settings, getting everyone sort of like grounded in a way, like connected to one another, might be like that slowing down and like that starting to notice who else is here, listening to yourself. You could take it as far as like breathing together. I never quite go there. I'm just remembering to breathe as I walk and like think about where I'm looking. There's a lot for a facilitator. But when we're doing such a large event like this, hundreds of people, over 1,000 people potentially, it's hard to go from like super like calm energy to then like, all right, now let the ideas flow. It's like, oh, I'm in this like quiet space and I'm just enjoying it. And now you've like changed the channel on the radio, right? But like something else, like fast beat tune. Like what's happening? So instead, Jake and I, we approach it more as like, what's the vibe in the room already? Like how are people kind of showing up? Like when we facilitated years ago at the Scrum Gathering, there were some keynotes before us. And so we're hanging out in the back corner listening. And I pointed out to Jake, I was like, oh my gosh, this group, they laugh at the cheesiest jokes imaginable. Like, I am digging this. I was like, we're going full cheese ball with our opening. Like, that's what this group is responding to. Like, let's feed into that.
Play to the room.
So our approach is more of like paying attention to like what's already happening and how do we use that and like build it up so that there is more creativity, there is more energy in the room for people to again like propose sessions for the day, because we're
Okay.
talking about like an entire afternoon. So it's going to be like 100 different topics that people are proposing and saying like, I'm going to be over here at this time, and someone else be like, I'm over here at the same time, and now you have to like make a choice. Where do you want to go?
Which one do you want to go to? Or
And so
both?
there's a lot, or the both, yeah, of like why settle for just one thing? Like you can totally migrate from session to session, and that serves a really great purpose too. If you're starting to cross pollinate some ideas, you're making
Yeah.
connections, and maybe like reinforcing some themes that we might not otherwise know about.
Okay. So people can come there and there will be postage or whatever, and they can come and announce their topic. I'm
Yeah.
imagining that for a lot of the first timers, they'll be expecting the thought leaders and the people,
That's like that.
whatever blogs, podcasts they watch, books they own, they'll be waiting for them to show up. And this is really, I would think, an opportunity for them to take the reins and make sure that they get what they need out of the conference.
100%. Yeah. Jake and I are both like big advocates for, again, it's like, it's for practitioners in my head. Like you are doing the work of navigating your career. You are doing the work of helping your organization. Like that perspective is so vitally needed. And that's the one that I think all of us like want to help the most. I've been a consultant for about 12 years. I'm always listening for like what's happening in actual companies. What are real people experiencing? So it's not the same as when I was doing the stuff as an employee long ago. There's always some changes, or there's always some nuances. So the thing that I recommend for people is, again, think about what is it you're learning that you're like still in the process of figuring out. Propose a topic around it. What's a question that you have? What's the thing that you're like struggling with, that you're like, I've heard this like 3 different ways from like different experts, and I'm not able to see which one's the best for me, or I'm not sure how to get started. Like, you can like listen to someone's workshop and be like, oh my God, yes, take my money. I would love to have you come and like fix everything for me, and then I get like a better workplace to work in. And that's probably not going to happen, right? So it's like, so how do I help my organization get from here to here, and like all the pivots and like the nuances along the way? It's like being able to talk to you, and like, again, it's this, I propose the topic, whoever shows up, like those are the right people. Those are the ones that are also curious about it, or they've got some experience with it, or they perhaps have done something in like a very different field that you're like, I wouldn't have thought that would have like been all that insightful, but oh my gosh, now that you start talking about how you've done this in a different industry, or like with a very different model of, maybe it's like a volunteer group or something, like I can actually now see how this applies. And I'm like so glad, right, that I prompted this conversation to happen. So it's usually like, what are the things that you are not an expert in? Not, I suddenly have ideas, I think I'm really smart, come hear me be really smart, without the benefit of like months of preparation, like the other workshop presenters that we hear the rest of the week.
But they could, if it is something they've been working on, like noodling on in their head, they could put up a session to test for understanding, to see if it resonates with people, get feedback
you're
on
right,
it.
saying like, I'm noodling on this, like I'm still kind of working through, like how do I explain it? But with that, recognizing that it's not, so I'm gonna give my like TED talk and then ask for feedback at the end, because one of the ideas with open space is, again, if I attend a session and I don't feel like I'm learning or I'm contributing or I'm not really getting anything out of it, I get to apply the law of mobility. I get to leave, and not in a like big grand way of like, this is not for me and I shall take my things with me. It's just like all right, I'm just standing up and grabbing my stuff and I'm walking out. Like, I'm not making a show of it. It's like no big deal. That if you are trying to give your like presentation, like a number of folks will more than likely get up and
Yeah.
walk away. Just that's not a thing that's giving them energy, and that's not a thing that's contributing to their learning the way that they wanted in that moment. And so being able to recognize, like, I might have an idea of how I want to kick off my topic and some things I like to get out of it. And I do need to check in with others that have shown up on what's important about this topic for them. What are they wanting to get out of
Yeah.
this?
And if you only
See
get
how
four
you balance
people,
that.
you get four people, they're the right four people.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'm hoping people are going to come and check it out. This is going to be on the 24th, which is Wednesday, and it's right after the keynote, and it's all afternoon.
Yes. Yes. We get
Awesome.
all
Okay.
day, basically.
And if there's two sessions that I want to attend and I can't make it to one, I'm assuming there's some way for people to share back what they've learned or what comes out of the sessions.
Yeah, so we encourage people, we'll have easels set up at every session location, and so we encourage them to take notes, just like live annotating bulleted lists usually during their session, and folks will often put those up nearby or in a hallway or something. So it is kind of interesting to like browse like what are all these posters about? And like sometimes you can like tell what the conversation might have been, and other times like I have no idea. I like that's kind of fascinating too. Maybe I want to find someone that was in that and learn more about it.
Cool. All right, so I've got one more question because I asked you so many questions about open space. I have to like cut it down so it fits. But there's going to be a lot of people that are coming to this for the first time, and what advice do you have for them in terms of how to prepare? Because when you get there, it is so overwhelming.
It is.
What should they do to get ready?
So the best advice I ever got from a senior leader that I was working with many years ago, I told her, hey, I'm going to be going to a conference. I'll be out for a couple days. And she said, disconnect. And I went, what?
Yeah.
She disconnect. I want you to delete your email from your phone. Do not check it on your devices. Like you need to be fully present for the conference. And I looked at her and said, no, like it's a conference. It's still kind of professional. And like, I like checking my emails and feeling like I know what's going on. She started to tell me about an article that she had read and like some of the brain science about why you need to disconnect. And at that point, I was like, all right, she's my client, senior leader. When she says disconnect, I need to disconnect. And that was one of the biggest ahas for me as I started to follow that approach and literally like deleting the email account off of my phone. So even if I wanted to like press it, it just wasn't going to be there. But it made me more present to like, what is it that I'm learning? Who am I connecting with? How am I able to just enjoy the conference more? So I would say like disconnect from everything else. And then you're able to know like which topics am I most interested in? When is it like my brain is full and I need a nap? Or I need to go to the pool and like relax for a bit, or like I want to go and meet up with like one person that I met in a session and maybe like grab coffee with them. So being able to create your own schedule within the schedule and know like what is it that's going to help me the most this week.
Cool. Okay, so this is going to take place on Wednesday, the 24th, right after the keynote. We should talk a little bit about logistics, and I know there's a big effort being made for people that have different needs at events like this because it is a pretty intense thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? How that's all set up?
Yeah. This is where like the introvert in me started to really fall in love with open space. And as I've talked to people that have like divergent brains, once they understand what to expect, they realize like, all right, it might be overwhelming, but it's probably only for a very few minutes. And when you know that's coming, you can find ways of getting through it, right? Prep for it. Yeah. So, we already mentioned there's going to be a room. It's going to have these chairs in like a circle and like concentric circles all the way out. Jake and I will be in the middle. We might not stay in the middle the whole time. Jake and I sometimes like run around and play a bit. But you will probably be able to see us in the middle of the start of the opening circle. We're going to explain how the day is going to work. So you don't have to remember this podcast. You don't have to like watch it the night before.
Or over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah. But we'll explain, what are the principles of open space of like, when it starts, it starts. So this is not quite the same feel as the rest of the conference when they say like, if this thing starts at 2:00, you might need to have your body in a chair in the room by 2:00 if you want to sit in a session. Like it might get full. It might not have capacity. For us, it's a bit more of when people mosey on over for that topic, and then there's like a quorum of them around that 2:00 mark, just start the conversation. It might be a little bit earlier, it might be a little bit later, but like whatever that looks like. And whenever you're done with like the conversation of that session topic, you're done. Like you don't have to like expand time of like, well, there's so many more minutes left in our session. Like you can say like, it feels like we've gotten what we needed to, and everyone can move on to somewhere else. So again, we'll explain these principles. We'll explain that law of mobility that we talked about, where again, you can get up and go wherever you need for your own learning, for your own energy.
Okay.
So after we explain this, we're going to have someone come up that does a demo with us, because this is where it's about to get the chaos that some people first experience for open space. Who was that? All right, meet our friend, say Paul. Paul's been a good demo for us in the past. We're like, all right, Paul. So Paul grabs a piece of paper. It's going to be in the middle of the floor, and he's going to grab a marker. Paul is going to write on the piece of paper, here is the name of my topic. And my name is Paul. His name on the piece of paper. Like, all right, Paul, so go up to a microphone that we have here, announce your topic, say your name is Paul, then he's going to go over to this long wall, be on the side of the room, and it's taped up, and we call it the marketplace. So this is truly where the agenda for the day is starting to be built in real time. Now, because it is such a large event, we're going to have some volunteers over there. They're going to help you navigate where do you put your thing on the wall, how do you decide on what room that you want to use so people know where to find you. And we're like, awesome. So now that Paul's done that for us, it's time for everyone else. So at that point in time, if you have an idea, a question, a thing that you want to discuss with other folks, you're going to come to the center of the room, get a piece of paper, get a marker, write it down legibly. It's an important rule for every Agilist, like write legibly.
Yeah.
And then stand at a microphone, and when it's your turn, announce your topic, and then post it in the marketplace. And then we ask, like, whatever time and whatever location you selected, be there. Helps to be there at that time, at that location, so that you can kick off the conversation.
Cool. And then whatever happens, they'll capture on the flip chart sheets. They'll be up on the wall so people can check that out after. All right. So in advance of this happening, I would like to thank you and Jake on behalf of everybody that's going to be there for giving us this time to create our own conference within the conference. And for all the new people that are going to be there, go pitch a topic, because it's one of the best ways to connect with people and find your tribe within the conference. But Allison, thank you.
Thank you.